or Wednesday, and that's November 12th. It is. Hope you guys are doing well out there. I am not going to be in here very long. And I say that all the time. I should probably stop saying that because I notice that people say that a lot. And I'm when they say it, I'm not saying that they're not, or that I'm not being genuine when I say that, but it's just, it always kind of starts out that way. So I appreciate you guys per usual. I appreciate you guys per usual for coming on earlier today and supporting the stream just before 6:30 today. So I appreciate that. So I only have just a couple of things. Just a couple of things. I just wanted to go over this piece from Axios that's referring to Trump's defense for the H-1B visas. And to me, it sounds more like, he's echoing the same sentiment as Elon Musk from earlier this year, but of course, he's not going to be met with the same type of, dare I say that the MAGAs of the world, they may not be in agreement with it, but they're not going to show the same kind of, they're not going to show the same kind of disdain or, or you know, he's not gonna get the lambast, of course, that Elon Musk got for making similar comments about the talent that exists in the States. But I also want to cross reference another piece that came out of Breitbart not too long ago, in which I talked about how India had drafted a bill. That piece from Breitbart discussed how India was drafting a new bill to accelerate Indian migration into the U.S. jobs with their overseas mobility bill, and I said, wow, it just looks like America's already been sold. It already had a price tag on it, but even more so now, the future of it has a price tag on it. And these other nations, not to say I'm not showing any hostility towards other nations, but at the same time, it's blatantly obvious that the future is going to be technology heavy. Of course, once they clear some of these bottleneck issues, but India is basically training and basically grooming their younger generations, to basically come in and take on the white collar jobs, the Fortune 500 type jobs, which is going to, I'm sorry to say, but just look at the way things are going. The common man right now is definitely, the American common man is not competing on the same levels as students, or their, dare I say, their peers of different backgrounds from other places. So a shout out to anybody that's in the back of the stream. If you're coming in, I appreciate it. If you could just love on the like button per usual, that'll go a long way. So yeah, so I'm just saying to the, it just, a lot of things are going to go to, a lot of people, a lot more of our job markets or our industries, I think, are going to be, they're preparing those industries for the H-1B visas. And that means it's going to, your Silicon Valleys and your MITs, they're going to be going into those positions. It's not going to be the American graduate. I mean, all over the news, all over media, you see more and more in the mainstream discussing where America is education wise, whether it's, they're discussing reading scores, where we are. Hi, Fred Chambers 7030. I got it. Good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are. And Andrew G4G, how are you? He says, I'm sorry I was somewhere else. Well, I appreciate you for coming in. I appreciate you guys for loving on the like button per se. But yeah, so we're talking about Trump's defense for the H1B1 H1B visas. Um, and it's got the quote, you don't have certain talents in the US. Well, well, it just depends on what, certain talents. I mean, when it comes to math and science and just literacy, I think that we are at, where we are, we're not where we need to be. And that's the elephant in the room. You have the Democrats that have they have pretty much, they have just kind of, they've had such a stronghold, the teachers unions, over education for so long. And it's a system within itself. It's kind of, I think as they say, I'm gonna go out on a limb, for lack of a better phrase. I'm gonna say that the American education system is its own dialectic. It's its own. I think I'm beginning to think seriously, if I run it through my own X-ray machine, that all of our institutions have its own dialectics. Um, it all has that problem, reaction, solution. And most of those problems are created by the system itself. Thank you so much for coming in, guys. YouTube Stab Worthy, thank you so much for coming in, and you were most generous. Thank you so much for coming in. And if you guys could remember to hit that like button, we're available to love on it, love on it. Love on it here at this channel. It is 6:21 in the PM on the CST, and it's 7:21 on the EST. So, and if you're out west, it's 4:21 on the PST. So I appreciate you guys so much. Thank you so much at YouTube _Stabworthy. Fred Chambers 7030 says he's trying to move the 2028 Olympics out of Los Angeles, California. Can he do that? I'm not sure. I don't know. Was it when you say he? Are you referring to Trump? Derek C. Williams, shout out to you if you're within the sound of my voice. I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I don't know, because Gavin Newsom is definitely in charge there, and hey, good luck with that. You know what, you already know, okay? You already know. So I'm going to keep going here. So yeah, I kind of cross-referenced this whole situation with, the overseas mobility bill, and that Mumbai is going to be the hub for. So these other nations are training their people to pretty much have the success, and they're grooming them for the top technology jobs. I think also that they are that they were always competitive. I think they were always competitive. So when it comes to education, I think most migrants that come to the United States, they typically are high functioning, they're high level. And I think it's because of their cultures overall. Most students that come out of other nations, whether they be from China or India, or the functionality is very high. It's going to be high compared to even the American student body. I'm not sure. To Fred Chambers 7030. Some people have God complexes. What they think they can do versus what they can do, I don't know. But according to this, President Trump said in a Fox News interview that aired Tuesday evening, the H-1B skilled worker visas are necessary because, quote, you don't have certain talents in the U.S. There you go, certain talents, huh? And it says why it matters. The H-1B visas have divided MAGA world. They love to shellac everything with that. Hi, Derek C. Williams. Thank you so much for coming in. I really appreciate it on this Wednesday. And it just feels like it's a different it feels like it's a different day of the week. Well, it's definitely Wednesday. And thank you so much for loving on the like button. And like I said, if you guys ever want to throw some caution to the wind, you know what to do. You could do that other thing with the share button. Derek C. Williams says in exercise and listen mode, respect due to Black Spring with Autumn listening to you. I appreciate it, Derek C. Williams. I know you're a no nonsense. You're definitely top notch. I mean, I have to worry about some crazy time nonsense going on in here. But I'm just saying, he said rid of them shortly. Okay, sorry about that. Somebody called and interrupted the stream there just for a second. But I appreciate it so much. Yeah, well, he's got to deal with it. It's his bed. He's got to lie in it. That never gets too old, right? So here we go. So I'm saying right now, the way that if you turn systems into, like I said, I think education is its own dialectic, is what I think it is. And I think, they kind of destroy things from within. You know what I'm saying? They kind of destroy things from within. So, but I think these institutions, e.g. education, does that. It has that effect. I don't know. I'm thinking that we're not, as a society, we're not educating so much anymore. I think we want automaticity and we want instant gratification, and all a lot of the youth want to do is jump back on that video game. That's what they want to do. Like many of them, I think right now are probably going through some form of withdrawal because they can't get on one device. They got to go to another to try to get that fix. You know what I'm saying? Are you picking up what I'm putting down? So I'm going to keep going here. So just for a second here, I was talking about, if you guys have come in here, I appreciate you guys for loving on that like button per se. And so according to this, this is why it matters. H-1B visas have divided MAGA world, with business leaders like Elon Musk saying they're vital to the U.S. tech dominance. But Fox News' Laura Ingraham raised with Trump the concern that the scheme risks displacing American employees with foreign workers. As says, Trump signed an executive order in September requiring highly skilled workers hoping to obtain an H-1B visa to work in the United States to pay that $100,000 fee. And Derek C. Williams says it is indoctrination, not education in America. Yeah, you can't be free. You can't get too free with it now. No. No. You can't do that. And so it goes on to driving the news. Trump said on the Ingram angle that the U.S. is leading China by a lot on AI and, quote, we have potentially the greatest economy already. It is. There's never going to be a country like what we have right now. So it goes on to say, Ingram asked Trump if that meant that the H-1B visa thing will not be a big priority for his administration. And then goes on to say, quote, if you want to raise wages for American workers, you can't flood the country with tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of foreign workers, end quote, she said. Zoom in, it says, I agree. But you also do have to bring in talent, end quote, Trump said. Ingram countered, we have plenty of talented people in the U.S. And then he says, no, you don't. No, you don't. You don't have certain talents and people have to learn, end quote, Trump said. See, that's the same thing that Musk was saying. I don't know if you guys remember that during that whole brushy bromance and all that was going on with him and Musk at the beginning of the presidency, in which I essentially think that Musk was saying the same thing, that that basically they don't have time to set up. They're not trying to do an OJT program. They're not trying to train people like that. They need to they want these people coming in hot. They want them, whether that means they're a quick study, or whether that means they've already been through a bunch of training programs, or whether they've been trained, I guess, in a certain way. They're not going to put the money into that. They're not going to wait for you to go through a trade program. They're not going to wait for Americans to graduate from a 4-year school or to go to an MIT. Unless you're living in India and in some of these places, you don't come from those lifestyles, those backgrounds. And I will say specifically, I've said this before on this channel, I know that people that live in other countries, that maybe we might consider a third world, they live with a lot less, and they're a lot happier too. They have a lot less. Their living spaces are a lot smaller, and some of them to me appear to be happier with a lot less. And I'm just saying, that's just an observation. Um, yeah, just an observation. So I'll go ahead and finish out this one. It says, of note, Trump noted that ICE raided a Hyundai manufacturing campus in Georgia in September and arrested hundreds of South Korean workers who were building a battery plant. Thank you guys for loving on that like button. I appreciate that. It says he said they, quote, raided the facility because they wanted illegal immigrants out. But the workers had, quote, made batteries all their life, end quote. Making batteries is a, quote, very complicated, end quote, process, Trump said. It's not an easy thing and very dangerous. A lot of explosions, a lot of problems. Quote, they had like 500 or 600 people, early stages, to make batteries and to teach people how to do it. Well, they wanted them to get out of the country. You're going to need that. You're going to need that, end quote, he added. You can't just say a country is coming in, going to invest $10 billion to build a plant and take people off an unemployment line who haven't worked in 5 years, and they're going to start making their missiles. It doesn't work that way. And see, this is what I'm talking about. I think the resources in other places. Thank you guys so much for coming in. And for those of you who've had a chance to love on that like button, if you haven't, you can do me a solid right now and do it. And if you really want to throw some caution to the wind, you can hit that share button. Yeah, you can do that. But I'm just thinking, a lot of these people that come out of other nations, I think they're built, like, say for instance, if I think about Malawi, or places that may have even suffered from like afflictions like drought and like famines and things like that. They're building windmills and things from reading one book. They may not have they can't even afford to go to an MIT, but perseverance, and they're driven by something else. But around here, I'm not thinking that we're driven around. We're not really driven. I think we're kind of fat and lazy. I'm just putting it down like that. I think we're fat and lazy, and we want that dopaminergic response from video games and whatever else we can get our hands on, and that's about it. And get lulled back asleep again, and then get up tomorrow and do it again. Now that's my gut. Let me just read some comments here. Derek C. Williams says, an excellent book on the subject of indoctrination is A Deliberate Dumbing Down of America by Charlotte, is it Iserbyt? Iserbyt? That's an interesting last name there. Lots of lot going on there. I believe that's the proper title and correct spelling of her name. Or Iserbyt. Is it Iserbyt? Maybe it's not phonetically. Maybe we'll let it be. It's not. Maybe it's not. Derek C. Williams says the bill of fare was obedient workers who never questioned. Now idiot Americans are replaced with illegal aliens and artificial intelligence. Yeah, I mean, seriously, Americans are getting locked out, and it seems like our government and our politicians are, they're very much instrumental in that. They are going to, we're going to be locking you out. You're going to be locked out of job opportunities. You're going to be locked out of even the way you represent yourself, the way you are represented. It's just like they're looking for more ways to do that all the time. Um, is that there's a level of complacency. Alfredo 91394. What do I think of Israel? Well, that's kind of loaded. What do I think of Israel? I think there's a lot of controversy there. I think there's a lot of history. I think there's a lot of, when I say history, I think we're getting more of the his story versus, the history that we're accustomed to. Yeah, I think there's a lot that we don't know about that. I think we've been told what history is, and that puts us at a disadvantage. Derek C. Williams says, I saw a talk this morning between Mike Adams and Alex Jones. Adams estimates we are at least 15 years behind China as it relates to AI, chip making, and the battery making you referenced. Interesting. Okay, here you go. Derek C. Williams says it's pronounced Easerby. Easerby. There you go. Easerby. Yeah, that sounds like one to grow on. The word etymology there. But yeah, even at math and science, just to be able to think, just to be able to think, just to get generations to think right now. That's a job. That's a total that's a job in itself. What in the world? What in the world? What in the world? Okay, let's keep on going here. But yeah, it's just, I don't really think that where we're going is not going to be where we're going is not competitive. You're not going to be able to compete. Not with our values, not with America's values, not with a lack of values. Yeah, we just don't. Yeah, we don't use our hands. We're not using our hands. We're not using our minds. We're just kind of, like I said, we're just kind of on a lull. And it's tough to see. It's tough to see. Even, I will tell you, for people that happen to be in education, on some level of education, it is, you spend more time defending education because people are offended by education. I know that firsthand. You spend more time defending education because those that are subject to the education are offended by the education. It's amazing. It's, who was it? Who was it that talked about the destabilization and the demoralization of our people? It's he was a former KGB. I can't think of his name right now, but that guy was spot on. They have done a fantastic job. Is it just American society? I don't know. I can't say that, but I will say they have done. Has done a number, and I don't know what it would take. Yes, Yuri Bezmenov. Yes, that process is complete. The job is complete. Yep. I mean, you just think about during COVID, they were lambasting and shunning and shaming people for being literate and wanted to read about what they put in their bodies. But they worked, the media did their damnedest. They did their damnedest to make sure that they thwarted your efforts to be curious. They didn't even want curiosity about what people were doing, what people were subjecting themselves to. They didn't want that at all. So I'm not surprised. I'm really not. It's almost like they tried to, they made it a shameful thing for people to ask questions or to be curious or to be, to not just accept, okay, this is it, or not challenge. Will say, hey, this is antithetical to everything we've ever learned about this. Well, you tell me even if I have a cold, to go out and take X, Y, and Z, go out and take a shot, but my immune system is already trash. But you're telling me to go out here and inject myself with something else. They didn't want you saying that. You're gonna get a muzzle. I mean, that was a big hit job. Probably one of the, to me, that should hit the history books. What is it? Bezmenov talks about that ideological subversion. And how long does it take for that process to be completed and for them to be successful? I think he said about a generation. And we might even be 2 generations, maybe even 3 in by now. Maybe 3. If that's correct. Okay? So let me go here. Derek C. Williams says it takes 6 months to a year to destabilize a nation. He estimated that our destabilization in less than 15 years. He said the Kremlin was astounded that we destabilized ourselves. Yeah. Derek C. Williams, there you go. Derek C. Williams, thank you. It's the prolific Derek C. Williams. Please make sure you drop your link in the stream. And thank you guys for loving on that like button on this. What is today again? Today is it's Wednesday, November 12th. That is. And I'm telling you, this time is flying out of here, guys. Whether you believe it or not. This year's almost done. 25. Like I said, I think right now we have a class of 2026 on our hands right now. Hey, we're going to see. See, Derek C. Williams says, I just did a community tab post showing that they knew the pandemic was coming and had countermeasures in place. Yes, I think everything is, I don't want to say it's on the 5-year cycle, but I think that everything that was set up in 2020 was pretty much set up for right now, was put in place for a time as now. And that there's what's to come for 5 years from now, which is the 2030. How on target are they with that UN agenda 2030? I don't know. Some people say they've accelerated it because some things didn't quite go the way they wanted them to. However, Derek C. Williams says, YouTube renegade and cart carrying conspiracy theorist, Derek C. Williams is here. Thank you, Derek C. Williams. He says, most refreshing to see you rate free of all those self-censoring hostess. There you go. Do I have anything in here to toast? We'll just class of 2026, right? We got to bring it in. We got to come in with it hot. We do. So I appreciate you guys for coming in here, loving on the like button, and for those of you that shared out that stream. But I'm just saying that we can be prepared. When is the shock factor going to go away? When is the shock factor going to go away that we're not preparing? What are we preparing our young people for? If India has drafted a bill to accelerate accelerate the huge migration of Indians into jobs, white collar careers that are Fortune 500. What are the American graduates prepared to do? Like I said, these institutions have their own dialectic. It's American dialectic, not just the left and right dialectic. You've got the American dialectic, you got the education dialectic, you've got, dare I say, the entertainment dialectic, right? That's why I can't buy into that. It's realize here. All right, realize. Thank you so much for coming in, and I appreciate it for you loving on that like button and coming in. So yeah, we're just talking about H-1B visas and essentially how I think India and China and even the South Koreans, I mean, Taiwanese, anybody from the South Pacific is probably going to be ready to take American jobs very quickly. Our graduates are not. We don't have thinkers right now. They want to do everything but think. Like I said, you will find yourself defending education because they are offended because you are trying to educate them. How dare you? How dare you ask me to learn something? How dare you ask me to study something? How dare you ask me to take notes? What's a note? Do you mean I actually have to? Yeah. Yeah, it's happening. And usually that's I could say shout out to Derek C. Williams. That could be a code in itself. I say it's happening. It's happening. And it's all happening from within. It didn't take, it's like it's not going to take somebody, some outside force, some serious infiltration. No, it's going to be done right in your seat, right in your classrooms. Yeah, I mean, when you think about it, also, you just think about the toughness, the mental toughness of a lot of students, a lot of our youth. They're not very strong, you know, sticks and stones. They're all about, whether you say figuratively or literally, that, words can cut deeper than any knife. They don't, you know, but they're all running around with stress balls. What? Stress balls. And then you can even see, if you look at the back to school, the back to school shelves, the things that they were selling, they call it SEL, social emotional learning. Stress balls, the little pop-up things. Just, I swear, if you go to any of these other places, you won't see that. You won't. So, it's just, I don't know, like just soft, just cream puffs. I was thinking, like, what are you stressed about? I mean, it's not, but see, even that in itself, just indoctrination, learning the word stress. Stress was not a word, a working part of, a part of the lexicon, for the lack of a better word. But this day, time, and hour, everybody wants to be a victim. Everybody needs therapy. They've managed, I think our society has managed to convince everybody that you can't make it on your own. And to me, at a young age, that's indoctrination itself. It's a form of abuse. And we always go back to our abusers. Like I say sometimes, which side of this dialectic is more narcissistic? Is it the left, the right, or is it, which institution is more narcissistic? But it's based on that. Let's see. Let me just back it up a little bit. Okay, so Derek C. Williams, he says, the irony host is Black women claim they're the, quote, most educated demographic in America, end quote. Educated in what? They also hold more student loan debt too. Woo! Derek C. Williams. Burning in here. Let's see. Realize says abuse. Every 250 years, an empire falls. Next year, United States will be 250. Yeah, you can see it right now. It's crumbling all around. It's it's not holding. It's not hanging in there. It's not. You notice like they play. You don't see. When the older generation was saying 20 years ago, you don't see kids playing outside anymore. It's like they manifested it. The baby boomers or the baby doomers, whatever you want to call them, they were already manifesting that you don't see kids playing outside anymore. And I think that was that might have been, they were saying that like 20 years ago. Maybe closer to 25 or 30. But see, they had already, somewhere, they still manifested it, but they were powerless to stop it. You know, they let the culture and they let different cultures or a pop culture get in there, and then they were powerless to stop it. So if the kids aren't playing outside anymore, if the kids aren't raking the leaves anymore, if the kids aren't cutting grass anymore, what in the world are they doing? What is your part in this? Just stand back and say, I told you so? Just saying. Flying Guillotine 22. How are you? Yikes. How are you? Good to see you. Let's see. Derek C. Williams says, confirmed real eyes. Most empires fall after 2 centuries. Oh, you guys are on it for sure. Derek C. Williams says, I have to assume they're trying to use that metric as some sort of superior weapon against their men. The same men they'll be crying for at age 40. Interesting to see how that education helps then. Yeah. Flying Guillotine says, jobs we had as kids, immigrants do. Well, we'll see who's going to last is what I Hey, we're going to see who's going to last. Like I was saying this morning, I think it was a big mistake to give up. To me, we didn't need to trade. Why did we have to trade one thing for another? It's like you trade one industry for another. You trade your artisan. You trade your craftsmanship. You trade your trade. You trade your trade for what? To say that you have a degree, you got 5 degrees on the wall. And most of these degrees, I'm sorry, folks, they don't build that, quote, generational wealth. That's got to be, to me, that had to be, no, I don't know what year that came out, that phrase generational wealth. That had to hit Merriam-Webster's, I don't know, right up there with gaslighting. I know for 2020, in 2022, that was Merriam-Webster's #1 word, was gaslighting. But generational wealth, I don't know where it came in at. But that's all you hear people saying. But people don't have generational wealth with 5 degrees stacked up on the wall. I'm sorry to say, but most people with 5 degrees stacked up on the wall are usually some soft handshaking dude that can't really hack it in the real world. He's hiding out with his little bow tie and all this stuff going with his little briefcase. I'm just saying, it's just that's not generational wealth. What is this general wealth? Is it magical thinking? Is it then I know I'm flipping right here, but maybe I'm not. We're talking H-1B visas, something that maybe we're not going to qualify. Thank you so much, Fred Chambers 7030. Yeah, just love on that like button. Just love it. I'll probably wrap us up in about 8 minutes or so. I appreciate you guys taking your time on this Wednesday. But yeah, I'm just saying, like most of and I've been in those environments. I've worked in those environments. I personally, dare I say, this is not, okay, I'm talking too much now. Like some of these men, these types of people or personalities that you run into, you really don't want to deal with them. These, like I said, these little soft shaking hand guys, with 500 degrees on the wall, a bow tie, a blazer. You got these pompous professors and all this stuff. A lot of times your professor has student loan debt. Okay? I'll just say that was one of my professors. I mean, you could tell the way some of these professors act out on these college kids. Something didn't quite work out for them in their career. And it's clear because you're in here acting out on us like you're our leaders or we're not even worthy, and that's what they do to people's kids when they go to college. They go in there and they act out on them like they're the greatest thing. And, really they wanted to be a professional of this, but then instead they had to do this. And they had to pay their $90,000 worth of student loans back at that particular time. They came out of the East Coast with about $100,000 in debt, but then not even their doctoral degree is going to help them. Their chances of getting that paid back still not. No. Thank you, but no. Let me just read this. Here, let me read this. And I see what you're saying, Derek C. Williams. That this is it's a new age of that I don't need no man kind of stuff. Mm-mm. Mm-mm. They actually think these are like some kind of fake feminist or some pseudo feminist. They actually think that movement was made for them when it was actually, to me, to destabilize. It was a destabilizer. It was marketed to me to destabilize. I'm just saying. Derek C. Williams says the meme in the so-called manosphere is hear a black woman say, quote, "I got a PhD," end quote. My response, so how is that degree translated in the real world utilities? I gotcha. And Flying Guillotine says life experience and logic rules over fraternal order. You got that right. Oh wow, I don't know. It's probably retired by now. Yeah, I mean, I've worked with a lot of people like that, a lot. But I'm just saying, like, when you're dealing with somebody that's got a PhD and they work at a college, and I'm speaking from my own experience, okay? It's working, like, even if you're in that community, if you are a college professor, those men, I mean, honestly, whether it's my own college professor, was my colleague, I mean, seriously, can you even change a tire? I mean, seriously, like, I think they'll be calling AAA faster than, somebody at prom. Seriously, let me just read this. Derek C. Williams says, my brother graduated with 2 degrees from the University of Mississippi. Guess where I saw them? Not on his wall, but laying in the back seat of his car. This was in 2021. Wow. Yeah, Derek C. Williams. Watchman says, what was his name, Black Spring? Hey, you find one everywhere. Listen, this is not just unique to Black Spring. You can find these pompous, windbag, soft handshaking, bow tie wearing, what I don't know, call him a simp. You could seriously, you can find them. They're out here celebrating. Oh, it's International Women's Day. Oh, it's Indigenous People Day, or yeah, seriously. Honestly, they probably helped put these holidays on the calendar. It's it's Metrosexual Day. You know what I'm saying? I'm telling you, like, it's, I don't know. That's why I think a lot of men have been emasculated. I do. I really do. Hang on one second here, guys. Woohoo. Okay, sorry about that. A little dry. The weather keeps flipping around here. Derek C. Williams says, Derek barely graduated from high school, ranked 68 out of 159. All I am is an agnostic who is also a voracious reader who loves documentaries. They call that, quote, self-taught, end quote, I believe. Well, you know what? That's priceless. You can't get that anywhere, Derek C. Williams. Maybe you should open up a school and don't wear a bow tie. You said, is it National Donut Day? No, thanks. Simone Watchman says, I'm Indigenous and even I don't celebrate Indigenous Day. I'm telling you, listen, I'm telling you, like, if you're some kind of ologist, or it's I don't know. To me, it's a very emasculating community, from what I can see. It's everything is a spectrum. Once they start that, it's a spectrum kind of a thing. It's a bit much. Okay, it's a lot. It's a lot to chew on. Derek C. Williams says, and in my heart of hearts, I know I flunked my final geometry test, and I believe to this day that Mrs. Ledoux Ledoux. Mrs. Ledoux just passed me on through. She should have flunked and graduated in 1986. It was National Hot Dog Day in late August. I believe old. Wow, you guys are on it. You're keeping up with these days, you know. Well, you know what? I want to let you guys know I really appreciate you for coming in and loving on the like button. It's been, you know, you guys have kept this thing. You brought us to life brought me to life around here. And let's see. Yeah, this all started out with an Axios piece on Trump defends H1B. I keep saying B1, H1B visas. You don't have certain talents in the U.S. So I wonder why. You know, if you get a degree in basket weaving or sculpting ice crystals, and, you know, I don't know. Some guy sitting around doing yoga and reading poetry, you know. I don't know. Could that be? What could go wrong? What are you training? What are you training the next generation for? Not quite like they're not going to be ready for this technology wave. No. All right, guys, I appreciate it so much. Thank you so much for tuning in. This segment of Black Spring with Autumn, as well as this morning on the Blitz, the morning crew. I appreciate you guys. I'm just going to give a shout out to everybody, and I'm going to be saying so long out here. It says, I'm starting a new business account, and in its signature, it says she, her, hers, she acronyms were used. Woo, woo, that's heavy. That's heavy. It's a lot. It says in its signature, it says she, her, hers, she acronyms were used. Wow. Well, I'd love to learn more about it. Let's see. For sure, Watchman, let me roll this through. The person handling my account. Wow. Yeah, okay. So did they sign off with that? Is that their signature? Yikes. Yeah. See, I don't mean to do that on here. Like, no. I don't do pronouns. I know they have a purpose, and then we just leave them at that. Okay, I just want to give a shout out to Andri-G4G. Thank you for coming in. Fred Chambers 7030, who has been keeping that like button hot. Keep it hot, right? Let's see. Derek C. Williams, of course, the prolific Derek C. Williams. You guys feel free to drop your links in the stream if you like. Alfredo 91394. Thank you so much for coming in. And who else do we have? Realize. We do have a budding class of 2026 budding right now. I just want to let you guys know that. I can see that around here. I see it. Flying Guillotine 22. Thank you so much for supporting me and the channel. The Simone Watchman, of course. Thank you so much for tuning in and keeping us on our toes. And let's see. I'm going to make sure I'm not missing anyone else. All right, guys. You guys have a great rest of your Wednesday. It's been an interesting day. It has felt like a Monday because when you put like a holiday or something like that in the middle, it just gets to be shaking things up, right? Shaking us up. All right, guys. Well, I will see you later, probably tomorrow morning with a morning crew. Gasoline says Kamala is passed out next to a box of wine. All right, man. Oh, wow. Oh, thank you so much, Latressa Montgomery 7932. Thank you so much for coming in, and thank you guys for loving on the like button. I really appreciate you guys. I appreciate that. And for those of you that really want to throw some caution to the wind, you can always share it out. And I look forward to seeing you guys soon. Bye for now. Thank you so much, Fred Chambers, for all your support. Bye for now.